Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live Q&A. My name is Cedric Marin. I'm an immigration lawyer at Holth Immigration Law, and today we have another live Q&A. And I don't think we've actually really scheduled it. There's no real warning, so unless you know that these happen here around this time, you wouldn't necessarily know that I'm doing a live Q&A. But listen, if you're subscribed, if you're just joining us, if you're back for more live Q&As, welcome to everyone joining us. And again, just very briefly, our live sorry, I forgot to connect this. I always do this. Our law firm is Holth Immigration Law, so HOLTHE law.com. There's a link in the description. You can see here we got tons of reviews. We are 4 lawyers who provide quality legal services. So we're not consultants. We're immigration lawyers, and we're able to represent you for your immigration application, help you prepare properly completed immigration application. So today, live Q&A, ask your questions away. We're going to talk about some of the things going around about immigrating to Canada. So study permits, express entry, and about what we're expecting in 2022. So good morning, Gregorio. Good morning. We also have Kia Boone Erickson writing from Cameroon. I always love to know where you're joining me from. And then we have God, who says hello, hi. Catherine also says good morning. Good morning to you as well. And I think we have our first question. So you know what? Let's just dive right into it. Do I stand a chance getting a study permit to Canada after after a misrepresentation issue with the USA? How much chance do I have? Can you help me? So the goal today of live Q&As is to just give general legal information. So it's not legal advice, right? So we're not going to tell you yes or no or do this or don't do that. What I'm actually going to try to do is that we're going to flip back to the immigration website and even the operational instructions to really show you and get you on the right track. Now, if you do want to speak with us, right, head onto our website, book a consult, and we'd love to speak with you in detail about how we can help you with your application. So, Kiabun, the general rule, there's no, if you're barred from misrepresentation in the United States, you're not automatically barred from inside Canada, right? So, Canada has its own set of immigration rules, but I can guarantee you that your file will attract a lot of attention by immigration authorities in Canada because they have information sharing agreements. So I would disclose it right away. Say, listen, I've been found in misrepresentation, and I would really try to go into detail, not hide anything, and not continue any misrepresentations. Your file is going to get scrutinized. I guarantee that. We do have experience with dealing with cases like this, so please reach out for more information. But as a general rule, right, you're not automatically barred from Canada just because you have been found to have committed a misrepresentation in the United States or in another country. Emmanuel says, hi, I am from Nigeria. Well, Emmanuel, nice to join you. Nice to have you join us. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Demario. So Demario, yeah. Is there any news as to why the EE draws were only PNP for the last? There isn't that I'm aware of. There isn't. Now, we know that this year they're going to start occupation-specific draws where they're going to pick people based on their occupation. We also know that the intended destination, right, is also going to be a factor. So what we do know is that there's ministerial level plans where they publish them every year, and they try to guess how many people are going to get permanent residency through different streams. So for CEC, again, I'm just speculating, this is not official, but maybe it has something to do with the upcoming NOC specific draws where they want to take more people later on. But one way or another, there are levels, right? They are trying to take people to come to Canada. It's our CEC draws or FSW, right? The draws continue to happen, but there's no hard news as to why it was paused. Before it was paused because of technical issues. But that's not really the case here. We don't know why it's been paused, but quite odd. Even before COVID, it was quite odd to see this. But we had a streak of no program specified draws, and then they stopped for a bit because of technical issues, switching from the old NOC codes to the tier codes, the new NOCs. And then now that they're back, a lot of people who are waiting for ITAs, work permit expiring, are now, faced with this dilemma where they have CC, their score is maybe 485, 488. They might turn older and lose points. Work permit might be lapsing, and now we're only seeing PNP and FSW. So I hope we're going to see a big CC draw. I hope this is all part of a bigger strategy for immigration, but right now there's no news on that. It's always interesting too, if you go on to the newswire here, newswire.ca, you can actually see here this is if you sort by IRCC, right? You can actually see here the announcements that they're making. So there's an announcement coming up regarding Iranian residents inside Canada that's going to take place at 11 a.m. Pacific time later today. And you can also follow the available for viewing at this following link. So you can always see like upcoming announcements. Here we talk about sponsorship agreement holders to mark Black History Month, talking about reduced work experience for caregivers. So this is where they announce their media. So you can always take a look to see whether or not what's going down the pipeline. There's also other the IRCC newsroom that they have. But no news, guys. It's so sad. I mean, I have so many people who are waiting. I have personal support worker certificate, 10 months left on post-graduation work permit, and I've heard from potential post-graduation work permit holder extension program this year, and have heard potential extension program this year. Is it happening? Oh, Romeo, I really wish that I could comment on some of these things. I generally tend to avoid any speculation, right? The most that I try to do is calculate CRS scores depending on ITAs, or looking at immigration level plans and deadlines and trying to make some assumptions. But there's no news on a post-graduation extension for PGWP. Now, it's happened in 2021 because of COVID. We saw it happen in 2022. And now this cohort in 2023 were obviously really impacted by COVID, right? If you had a work permit issued, post-graduation work permit issued in 2020, you had 2 years of intense COVID. So I really hope that there is another PGWP extension. We're going to see what happens because there's nothing confirmed right now, Romeo. IRCC, what happened last time, around May, they announced it, or May or June, they announced it. Then in August, they actually opened up, right? Just one day, it's now open. And then we actually saw the instructions were signed somewhere between June and July. So fingers crossed, Romeo, that it's going to happen. How much funds do I need to show if I apply for open work permit? So in this scenario, right, so you can get an open work permit. There's different types of work permits. There's obviously different country-specific information. So let's try to answer your question. Right, so you can get an open work permit as a spouse of a skilled, in a spousal sponsorship application, right? You can get an open work permit under the A70 code. The most common ones here are the spouse of a high skilled worker, spouse of a full-time worker. And we can actually look here to see what are the requirements for this work permit, right? So let's take a look here for spouse of a skilled worker. So you get an open work permit because your spouse has a work permit and it works in a certain scenario. So you can actually take a look here at the eligibility, and this is what we need to have in terms of eligibility. So your spouse has to have it'd be the dependent family member, right? And your spouse needs to be authorized to work inside Canada. So these are the requirements here. And what we're going to see is that there isn't really, for most of them, again, just general legal information. Obviously, speak with a lawyer for legal advice. But generally what we'll see is there's no hard requirement for funds for most open work permits, right? So you probably want to have at least 10 grand, right? Flights ticket, be able to pay for rent, be able to have a month or two to get integrated inside Canada. I think that's at the very minimum, 10, 15 grand, right, in terms of proof of funds. But obviously it depends on your situation, how many kids you have, how many dependents you have, specifically what program you're applying to. And I just want to encourage you can also go here. There's this website the IRCC website says application to work in Canada. And this is what you're looking for. And if you go here at the bottom, I just have it bookmarked because I use this quite a bit. And here we're going to select online. And here we're going to take just a random country. We're going to pick South Africa here. And it's actually going to give us the the visa office requirements for applicants for work permits in South Africa. And then it's going to pop up and it's going to look something like this. And these are called the visa specific instructions or visa office instructions. And this specifically gives us advice on what they want in that office. And sometimes when we read here, right, so they want a job offer, evidence to meet the requirements of the job offer, so employment references and so on. But other documents here, they just say financial, but it doesn't actually talk about what they like, about any requirement. But here they talk about financials in order to satisfy the officer that you return to your country. So what I encourage you to do is read, again, you've just asked a very general question, but read the LMIA, read to see which LMIA exemption you might fit, and then take a look at your country specific documents to see whether or not this is required, and then look at your specific program. But usually, again, just generally, there's generally no like hard and fast rules for proof of funds like there is for other programs of study, right? Other programs like study permits or express entry, where for the federal skilled workers you have minimum 14 or 15 grand, right? All right, hope this helps. And guys, I just want to let you guys know we're just going to flip back here. If you go over, there's actually all these other requirements, visa specific instructions for. Oh, this is really zoomed in. For study permits. So take a look here, because if you're from Angola and get the documents, you're going to have your own visa office instructions for study permits. And it's funny enough, it's actually the same Pretoria office, but this is for study permits. And this is what the office is expecting you to provide. And sometimes it's different or even goes above and beyond what's in the general instructions, right? In this case, right, they want you to answer these questions. They want to give you proof of current previous studies, right? Some of these requirements, and here we talk about the proof of funds, right? So take a look at the visa specific requirements. It's really, really going to go a long way in your application. All right, Jane, let's get to it. It says, hi, sir, I've applied for my TR to PR essential worker stream on 15th July, still getting nothing. When can I expect PR? So no news is good news, Jane. I've seen quite a bit of TR to PR refusals. I had to go to judicial review in federal court and argue them in front of a judge, or in front of the court, I should say. And so they are starting. People who've also applied under TR to PR have already received their PR as well. So we've seen people who really have done both, right? So it's really hard to say. Take a look at your spam folder. Sometimes people miss updates. Take a look at your online account, the application checker. But no news is good news, right? And I think I've talked about this in the past, but imagine you're a visa officer, you have hundreds and hundreds of files to decide every single day or every single week. And you go through a file, and within 10 minutes, you realize, oh, this person doesn't have a reference letter. Rejected, right? It could take 20 to 30 minutes instead of spending hours on a file, right? So really, they're really looking for the fastest way to make a decision, whether it's granting you PR or just rejecting it because you're missing some documents. So generally, no news is good news. Is it easy, at least, to get an LMIA from an employer if my post-graduation work permit is about to expire? How can I apply for open work permit after post-graduation work permit expires? So general information, right? Take a look at the LMIA exemption codes, right? So LMIA exemptions, there is some exemptions where cases where you don't need an LMIA for a work permit, right? So I've talked about spouses of skilled worker, spouses of international students, right? There's other types regarding your country, if you're a professional, right? If you're a trader, if you have a job offer, if you meet certain requirements. So take a look at this page, a lot of legal gibberish. I don't know your whole situation, but most people are not able to get an open work permit just like that after their post-graduation work permit, right? So if there's an extension that's announced, great, take advantage of that. And now, how easy is it to get an LMIA? So it's employer driven. So it's 100% illegal to pay for an LMIA. 100% illegal to pay an agent to find you a job that gives an LMIA, right? It's 100% illegal, and it might have worked for someone that you've heard about in your community, someone who's done it, someone who's now a PR. But I guarantee you that people get caught and it's 100% illegal. And what happens is when one person gets caught, they're going to investigate how they got the LMIA and where it came from, and they might find hundreds of other LMIAs, and they're not going to hesitate to revoke your PR, or even, if your PR was obtained on fraud, even revoke your citizenship in some cases. So it's super, super, super serious stuff. I would never pay for an LMIA. I would definitely encourage you not to either. It's completely illegal. Now, with that caveat in mind, keep in mind that the LMIA, for the employer, it's gonna matter here. If we go on the jobs, on the job bank, we can kind of get a sense to the LMIA. So the LMIA, your employer can't just give you an LMIA, right? They don't just obtain an LMIA. The way it works is your employer has to prove to the Canadian government they can't hire a PR or a Canadian citizen, and thus, and then they need to hire a foreign worker. And that's why you're gonna get your work permit, because they cannot hire Canadians or PR. There's none that are available, right? Hard to recruit a position. So if you work in a position where there's Canadians or PR available for the work, the chances of getting an LMIA are quite low, right? Because your employer can't prove that they can't hire Canadian or PR. So let's take a glance here. So developer, let's go take a look here. So if you're a web developer or software developer, if you're a developer, let's take a look here. So here I have software developer. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to go ahead and check out the trend analysis. This is going to tell us by job title, right? So we're going to put here web developer and the location, or webmaster, good enough. Corporate webmaster, sure. And here we're going to put location, we're going to put Toronto. So this is going to tell us, like, on the job bank, just a brief overview here of the wage and whatnot, and what are the prospects, right? So the prospects are fair. So in other words, there's people that are hiring and there's people that are looking for work, right? So here we get 3 out of 5 stars. So this might be difficult, right? There's 69 jobs available. There's a lot of people looking for work as a developer, and it might be difficult for your employer to actually prove that they can't hire a Canadian or PR. They have to advertise the position, right? Depending on the stream, low wage or high wage, for at least 4 weeks, if not longer, on multiple job boards. They have to interview the people who apply, then document why this person is not good for the job. And they can't just weed out Canadians because they don't speak 5 different languages. There's requirements regarding the advertisement, the interview, and whatnot. So like it's difficult for companies too, right? It's difficult. A company can't just give you an LMIA for webmaster because they like you and they want you to continue working. They really need to prove to the Canadian government saying, look, we can't hire anyone or any PR citizen for this, and this is the reason why we need to hire Romeo Vivian. So employer driven, your employer does this because they have a business need, right? They want to hire you for it, a business need, and they want to hire someone for it, not specifically because they're trying to get Romeo another work permit. So a little bit detailed here, guys, but I think the key takeaway is don't pay for an LMIA, completely illegal. The LMIA is an employer-driven process. They need to get approval from the government, from ESDC, Employment Social Development Canada, and they need to prove that they're not able to hire a PR Canadian. So it's not as easy as just getting your employer to give you an LMIA. It's really because the employer is going to get one because they have a legitimate business need, right? That is the idea behind it. So when applying to TR to PR open work permit, is it mandatory to send work docs? The guidelines does not say, but some people on social media say they're not attached to open work permit may be rejected. Is that true? Well, let's go find out what's going on here. So let's head on over. So temporary public policy. This is for applicants. There's an extension to this though. I know there's an extension. I applied for one recently. I don't think this is not the correct page. Let's just try to find it here. So I think this is the policy we're talking about, Giorgio. I'm just not sure if this was launched, I think, around the same time as the post-graduation work permit extensions. Yeah, so this is the new one. And where is it here? Legibility requirements. I just want to make sure, Georgia, if you don't mind just specifying in the chat below, there's different temporary public policies. I'm not sure if you're talking about if you're talking about updating one that was previously submitted, or if we're really talking about the one that was launched at the same time of the post-graduation work permit extension, right? Both of these were launched at the same time. I just want to make sure that we have the correct page in terms of what we need to provide in terms of documentary evidence. Under this policy, again, I'm not sure which one you're applying for, but under this policy, it does talk about having a copy of the confirmation of the employment letter, right, from their employer as proof of authorized work. So please let me know if this is the policy that you're applying under, right? This is the one, this is the new public policy this is the new public policy regarding the TR to PR open work permit. Yeah, so this is the one that was announced most recently. Policy applies. Listen, it's tough sometimes to answer questions really in the few minutes that we have to really give the information. So just if you don't mind even posting the link, more than happy to click on it and take a look. But I would really, communities sometimes talk about different things. Sometimes it's not necessarily the most accurate information. I would 100% go with what IRCC is telling us on their website. And as a brief overview, and again, I submitted one not too long ago for a client. We did include those work documents. Temporary public policy, permanent residence. Right, so this is for the Canadian. So there's different ones, right, that are broken down to depending on if you're a student, if you were not. Yeah, so Sin, I don't have the answer to your question. There's different policies that apply. I'm not sure what program we're talking about, but feel free to post the public policy you're asking about, and I'm happy to go through it, try to guide us through all the information on the website. Menu says, I'm a business analyst, 1-year experience, previously worked as a graduate assistant for 1 year, technically work experience for grad assistant job, even though it was different knock code. Yeah, so this depends on the stream you're applying about. So we talk about eligibility for express entry. We talk about federal skilled worker. So federal skilled worker. So the way it works, guys, is we have to meet the eligibility requirements. Then we talk about CRS score, right? So minimum requirements are going to be 1 year continuous work experience. This has to be, so 1 year, they mean 1,560 hours, right? So over 52 weeks at a maximum of 30 hours per week. This is what they mean by full-time. So in this case, right, if you're business analyst, so business analyst, full-time, skilled work experience, and we meet the eligibility, then yes, we're able to add, right, another knock, right, in different periods of time, 6 months, 8 months, and whatnot, to make up for the CRS points. For eligibility, we need 1 year continuous, right? So in your case, again, there's a lot of unknowns here. Business analyst, is it skilled? What's the specific knock? 1 year? Do you actually need 52 weeks? Do you have the full-time experience? These are all things that we talk about you in a consult and kind of go over to make sure that it applies, right? But once we meet the eligibility requirements, you are able to, for example, stack different knock codes, stack different periods of time for the CRS, right? To get those CRS points. So it could be possible to have two different knocks as long as we meet the eligibility requirement. All right, Hard Deep Car, nice to see you again. It says, hello there, quick question. We've applied for under PNP Nova Scotia PR, got AOR 15th, 2023. We have submit any POF document. Our consultant said no because we have our job offer. Is that true? POF document, proof of funds document? Because we have a job offer. Is that true? So we can go take a. Oh, I see. So the PR PNP class, right? So if you're going through a non-express, I don't know if your application is express entry based or not. Some of them are, meaning that you can still qualify under CEC or FSW. If you qualify under CEC, there's no proof of fund requirement, right? So you got the PNP certificate, you meet the requirements for Canadian Experience class, there's no proof of fund requirements. And I actually wrote a blog, I'm actually go take a look at it. I wrote a blog about the proof of funds under the PNP program, and it's a popular blog. We're getting lots of hits on it, and I think the reason why is because there's not a lot of information about specifically how proof of fund works for PNPs, right? So let's go take a look here. So provincial nominee and proof of funds. This is under express entry, right? So you might have a non-express entry base. I don't know. I'm just giving general information here, right? So let's go take a look. So yeah, if you meet the program requirements of CC, or if you have an arranged offer of employment, this is a specific meeting, but take a look at this blog here. This might enlighten you, right? So you could get your ITA under PNP, but you meet the requirements for CC, your application is going to be assessed under CC and no proof of fund requirements. So it could be true, or if it's under FSW, you probably need to provide proof of funds. Now, if you're in the scenario where it's non-express entry based, so the scenario where you have a certificate and now you need to apply for PR, right, through IRCC, this is the guide you're going to be looking for. And when we talk about what a complete application looks like, the document checklist, I encourage you to review this meticulously. And yeah, this is a common thing, we have to download it and then look at it. But I encourage you to review this very carefully to see whether or not there's a proof of fund requirement for you. And obviously, if we have a consult, we can definitely go over it to see whether or not in your specific case, under your specific program, you need to provide proof of funds. All right, Sharia says, hi, I'm on a post-graduation work permit that expires in June. Cannot extend. Yeah, so before COVID, you could never extend a PGWP, right? 15, since the IRPA was enacted in 2002, right? A solid almost 20 years that you cannot extend a PGWP. So this is all new, the idea that we can extend a PGWP, and they're just doing it because of COVID, right? And so the idea of the PGWP is you graduate from school and then you're able to continue working and get your Canadian work experience. And so I'm sure they're going to want to return to that, but immigration programs always change. So we'll see really what happens. All right, what are ways to stay in Canada? I'm waiting for an ITA. All right, guys, this is such a popular question. I get this at least once a week in paid consults. So here we go. All right. Number one thing is that you either leave Canada, right? So here you say you want to stay inside Canada, so that's not an option, but keep in mind, guys, that for some people, it could make sense, right? Your PGWP is over, you go back to your country for a few months, you have your express entry application, right? You update your address from being outside Canada, you can still apply for the Canadian Experience class if you meet the eligibility requirements. There's no requirements to be inside Canada. You spend time with your family, you reconnect, you get your PR, and then you come back you get your confirmation of permanent residence, and then you come back to Canada. It's a valid option, right? But I know a lot of you in consults, and a lot of people are like, no, I'm here, I never want to leave Canada, I'm never going back. And that's fine, right? But in that case, we need to find yourself a status inside Canada. You can't just stay inside Canada without a status, right? Your status is going to end, right, when the PGWP expires. And at this time, every temporary resident has a requirement that they need to leave Canada at the end of their stay. And the same thing applies to you. You obviously spend a lot of money on tuition, a lot of time on the PGWP, right, working. And now you're like, I have to, what? So you need to find yourself another status. So for some people, right, it might mean applying for a bridging open work permit before the PGWP expires, right? So you can do so if you have an ITA. In some cases, it might mean people are going to apply for a visitor record. So a visitor record allows you to extend your stay inside Canada, right? You're not allowed to work, not allowed to study, but you can extend your stay to remain inside Canada. You obviously have an apartment and whatnot, and it might not be financially viable for you to stay inside Canada, rent, and not work. And the third thing, right, is that keep in mind that the definition of work under the IRPA or under the rules, right? I'll just pull it up here. What is work? What is considered work? And it's a great resource, and I think it's just super important because we should talk about really what is. It's not here. What is? And so let's go find it. So I'm at the glossary and terms and definitions. We're going to go down to work here, and we're going to click on what is work. And let's take a look here of what is considered work. So don't just tell your employer, I'll stick around, just don't pay me, because that's going to be work. Don't, right? So if you're competing against Canadians, right, if the job is usually paying, right, are you engaging in business activity that is competitive in the marketplace, that's going to be considered work. That's not going to be allowed if you don't have a work permit. But But, right? Here are some examples that are generally not considered work, and one of them is long distance work being done by a temporary resident whose employer is outside Canada and who's not remunerated from, and who is remunerated from outside Canada, so not inside Canada, right? So this could be an option, right? Can you work for another company that doesn't operate inside Canada? So it can't be like the same company but European branch. It's not going to work. But can you work for a company and telework inside Canada on a visitor record? That's to explore, right? There's other things here that is not considered work, but I would tread very carefully because you don't want to find yourself, right, working unauthorized, because that's just going to make everything harder, right? So let's take a few steps back, right? Your post-graduation permit is going to expire. You're waiting for an ITA under CEC. You're waiting for an ITA. You can leave Canada, still try to apply from abroad for express entry. You might even be able to get foreign work experience over a year, increase your CRS score, and then come to Canada later. That's a valid option, guys. Legally, it's a valid option. Number two, we have the option of trying to stay inside Canada. You can go to another status. Another status could mean going back to school, maybe for an extra year. But keep in mind that there's conditions on who can apply for study permits from inside Canada. You can when you have your post-graduation work permit, but you can't after. I mean, you can. I have to look into that, whether you can restore it to a study permit. But you could, under some cases, apply for a study permit inside Canada another year, but you're not going to get a post-graduation work permit because you've already had one. But it could buy you some time inside Canada. You can further your skills. It's a valid option. You go to a visitor record. The visitor record, right, allows you to stay inside Canada as a visitor. You can extend your stay. You can make a request for 6 months and explain that you're waiting for an ITA. You're not going to work. You're just literally waiting for an ITA for express entry. The current processing time is quite long, but they've talked about putting some computer machine learning to get them done to 24 hours, only approvals. That's a whole other box, but visitor records is a valid option. All right, last option we talked about earlier. So scroll back to the video if you want. We talked about earlier about LMIAs, right? You can go to another status, and another status could be applying for a work permit with an LMIA or being LMIA exempt, right? So those are interesting scenarios. Very difficult, right, to get a work permit with an LMIA as we talked about, but that's another option. So stay inside Canada, get another status. If you are going to leave Canada, valid option, right? You can get maybe more work experience abroad if you have 1 year, is to leave Canada, right? If an extension is announced, obviously take part of the extension. If there's a temporary public policy announced, obviously do that. But really, this is my 2 cents about what to do. But you need a status inside Canada if you're going to stay, or you have to leave Canada. Keep in mind you have 90 days to restore, so you could, PGWP could come to an end. You can restore your status, but you're not going to get maintained status if you apply after your PGWP expires. That's super important, right? Because work permits are taking over 160 days right now to be processed. So anyway, a lot of information. But we'd have a consult, right? In a consult, we can talk about concrete terms. What is your plan over the next 12 months to stay inside Canada, or what is your plan for ITA? Is it legal? Does it make sense in your situation? Do you have any other options? I'd love to have a chat with you. Again, just general information. Sherry, I don't know your case, but I want to give a detailed answer because it comes up all the time in consults, and I really want to be as helpful as possible. All right, where exactly can I find express entry draws? I search online, other websites come up instead of the government of Canada. Interesting, Rosie. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are target those. Sorry, guys, misclicked. A lot of people target express entry and tons of content. This is what it looks like. This is what you want to search. And look for the IRCC website for rounds of invitation. And then we're going to scroll down. This is the last draw. And you can scroll down again and see the current pool, right? So you can see how many people, like, I really think it's going to be in the 480s if there's a CC draw. Like this is, they took all these people here. How many did they take? 700. Yes, they took all these people here. And next draw, they're going to be taking them. And then, yeah, we're going to be in the 480s. So fingers crossed, guys. And here I can see previous rounds, right? So scroll here, previous rounds. See here about the cutoff, who they took, how many people. It's all up there. All right. So sorry, I fixed it. All right, hi Cedric. 10K GIC amount good enough to get my study permit in Toronto. It's got accepted in one of the colleges. It could be, or it could not be. I don't know. I don't know about your situation, right? But But what I can do is I can definitely guide you in the right direction, right? So take a look at your study permit, get the right documents. Here it's going to talk about the minimum funds you need. You can see here it depends on the family members, right? So if you have family members coming with you, you could need more funds, right? Again, we're talking about outside Ontario. Then what is going to be the fund? So 10K GIC, okay, but have you paid the tuition fees? Like 10K studying in Canada is this is the minimum, guys. This is the minimum funds, right? Studying in Canada is expensive. Rent can easily be $500 to $1,000 to share, right? To have roommates in the same house, really expensive. This is the minimum. This is like really the minimum, like minimum, right? So I think I would show as much money as you can. Doesn't all have to be in GICs. I mean, a lot of people do the 10K GICs for the student direct stream, right? Non-student direct stream, there's different ones, but make sure you have, right, past bank statements for the 4 months and make sure that these requirements are met. And obviously happy to chat with you, say more in detail about your situation. Hello, can one cancel a delayed application approval and submit a new one? And what effect does it have on a final decision? Listen, I mean, you could. I mean, why not? But I don't want to comment on this because I don't know why you're canceling. I don't know what applications it is. Are you aware of processing time? Are you get your money back? These are all questions I think we want to go over to learn. Like, why are you canceling your application? I mean, sure, you can cancel. You can just send a web form and cancel applications. Why not, right? But like, does this strategically make sense in your immigration journey to Canada? I don't know, and kind of a weird question to ask. So you might be in a weird situation. Might require a consult. I don't know. Sure, it meant my PGWP I've had for the full time. Yeah. So I understood that, Shadi. Yeah, but like at some point, like I know you can't extend, but like we have to find a status inside Canada, right? We need to find a status inside Canada, right? If you want to stay. Got visa refusal twice for purpose of taking red seal exam. When I took GCMS notes, there was nothing special reasons except automatic refusal reasons, which I do at this moment. So judicial review is 60 days. You get a refusal. You can also consider a reconsideration request. So I have a whole blog on my website, on our website here under legal help. It's quite a popular blog as well, but I actually wrote a whole guide about how to do your own reconsideration request. So take a look at this. It talks about in detail about what you need to do, right? How to make a reconsideration request could be an option. You could also do judicial review, right? So judicial review is really going to federal court, arguing in front of a judge, right, the Department of Justice, and saying that, there's an error that's made. They never mentioned the red seal exam. The reasons are insufficient. They ignored evidence. That could be a valid option as well. A strategy could be to hire us to redo the study permit application, really do it well. If it gets rejected, then we go to court, right? We have a good application, and we have, I litigate in front of the federal court. I focus on refusals. So that could be a valid option. But if you're over the 60 days, judicial reviews could be quite hard, right? 60 days from outside Canada, which I presume you are, 15 if it's inside Canada. Mohammed says, CRI score 49 eligible for both FSW and CC. Do you have a hope of getting an ITA? Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, here we go, right? Before, on February 2nd, the last round for federal skilled workers was 489. So you probably were missed on the, what they call the cutoff, or the, let's take a look here. So, I mean, you definitely have hope of getting an ITA. The question is when? Probably within the next few weeks, hopefully. But there's a tiebreaker rule, right? So if you submit your application after this date, this is the wrong draw. It was after this date. Why is it always going back? This is the wrong one. I want 240. And it's bringing me to 241. Maybe if I click on 241, it'll bring me to 242. No, still 241. Okay, well, that's a glitch. IRCC, that's a glitch. Anyways, there's the cutoff rule. Yeah, you have a chance. I mean, yeah. Can Canada Immigration Officer Port of Entry check U.S. credit card data? I don't know. I mean, they're allowed to examine you, right? They're allowed to search your belongings. This is an interesting question, and I actually don't know. I don't know. There was information agreement with U.S. authorities, right? So they have they're very close in terms of information sharing agreements, whether they can specifically access your credit card data at the port of entry. I have no idea. And yeah, Georgia, I appreciate it. Let's try to find the policy here and go over it. Keep in mind that you can update your application, make a web form, update it, saying, hey, here's an updated reference letter, contract, pay stubs, tax documents, showing that I work at this position, I work at this job, right? Let's try to find it. So this is the announcement that came out, right? For both for PGWP and peer-to-peer pathway. And we're just going to scroll down here and apply for an open work permit. This is the new policy that came out. I think we might have been here. Yeah, we know it's closed, and we know that we could continue. And now when we apply, let's continue down here. This is what you have to provide. Then if we continue going down, how to apply, then here it says, pay your fees, to restore your status, to your document checklist, principal applicants and family members in Canada. Okay, let's go take a look here. So would you like to work temporarily? This is how you fill out the form. I answer this question. This is what you need. And you would answer no, fill out the forms. There's a section here. I know it tells you, there we go. I knew it was coming up. What you need to give. So principal applicant. So is this your initial work permit? All right, or is it not? Right, so it's the initial open work permit under this public policy. Documents to extend your work permit under this pathway. So let's actually go ahead and meet both of these, right? So let's take a look here. So proof that you're allowed to work when you applied for permanent residence, right? So this is going back to the TR to PR, that was a requirement. You applied for the TR to PR, obviously another requirement, and copy the passports. And to extend under this pathway, this is what you need. And then provide other documents. So here are the documents that you need. And then for family members inside and outside Canada. So take a look here at this requirements. I don't see any requirement in terms of documents, but again, like I'm just going through the IRCC webpage with you. I don't know off the top of my head. I would review this very carefully to see whether or not you had to give proof that you're currently employed. If there's any doubt, just provide it by web form, right? Update your application by web form with the AOR and just provide it and say, hey, here's an updated tax documents and reference letters for my TR to PR open work permit application, right? I mean, a lot of this information here is really the minimum of what you have to provide. It's not it's just the minimum of what you need to provide. It's not the, it's not like nothing prevents you from providing more documents if you think that it's going to be helpful for you. But let's go over this again. So you must live inside Canada, TR to PR pathway. When you applied for the TR, you're legally authorized to work. Language requirement, immigration status. I mean, listen, there we have it. Take a look at this, Giorgio, more in detail. And again, if there's any doubt, just update your application, right, by providing more information. Yeah, that's a tricky situation. Tricky situation. Dan, I applied for PR under TR to PR with my dependent children under 13, but they fill out a status. Will this affect my PR application being refused? Honestly, it really could, because a lot of times for the PR status, right, look at the time you applied and the time that they're actually giving it to you. Like, why do they fill out a status? Why can't you apply for a visitor record right now? Why can't you apply for a study permit, right? These are what I would be looking to get your children back into status. Tricky situation. Unfortunately, I can't really get into it in a few moments. I don't also know all the details, but yes, it could, right? If you applied for a program for TR to PR that you needed a status inside Canada, you currently do not have a status, right? It could be an issue. All right, G6 says my son is studying in Canada. If I apply for tourist visa or visitor visa, so that's the same thing, right? Tourist visa and visitor visa. Under the law, it's called a temporary resident visa. It's called a TRV. He's an undergraduate student living in university campus. Yeah, I mean, okay. I'm not sure the question is, but yes, we can definitely help you with that. But they're going to be assessing your ties to your country, right? They're going to be assessing, are you working in your country? Do you have funds to support your stay? Why are you coming to visit, right? What are your international travel experience? These are things that they're going to be looking at, in your application. Doesn't mean that you're going to be automatically rejected because your child is here, but you're definitely going to want to really prepare a good application. Hardeep says, you're a gem. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. guys, we're gonna be wrapping up here. I do have a call in about 10 minutes, and I got to drink water, walk around a bit. I can't be sitting here all day. But let's try to get as many questions. Listen, man, I appreciate the paid question, right? I really do. But my answer earlier stands. Like I can't say, yep, 10,000 is good enough. I can't say no. I don't know. Do you have children? Do you have dependents? How expensive is your program study? Have you already paid tuition? How are you going to support yourself during your studies? This is what I want to know before I can actually say, yeah, whether 10 grand or not is sufficient. Take a look at the website that I just had open about the proof of funds as well. Like, you need to meet those requirements for proof of funds. If you're loaning money off a friend, right, who's just giving you random money and you got a big deposit inside your bank account, how is that explained, right? Is this even allowed? Do you meet the requirements? These are things we need to talk about. I can't go over these requirements, and I don't just give my advice without actually knowing what I'm talking about, right? So I really appreciate the paid question, and I really thank you for it. We love having those live Q&As. I really try to help people, but I also have to be very careful, right? I can't just tell people what to do without knowing all the facts. I'm licensed, I'm insured, and I take that really seriously. RCC says, hi Cedric, 9777 in IELTS and CLB5 in French, 34 years old, I'm an accountant, do you have a chance to immigrate to Canada? Thanks. First thing you want to do, right, is take a look at your CRS score. So there's a CRS calculator, so go through this. It's going to depend a lot about your English scores are good. 7.5, you really get some bonus points for IELTS. CLB5, you're going to get some bonus points. CLB7 is really where a lot of those bonus points come from. Sorry, my Roomba here. Just going to pause that. There we go. All right, so take a look here on our website, on the IRCC website, and go through this to see what is your CRS score, and then look at the recent draws to see whether or not you have a chance. Talk about immigrating, talk about getting to Canada and having PR. Now, other option, francophone mobilité work permit, right? Did you grow up in French, or you habitual French resident? You may be able to get a work permit, right? If you're a French speaker. So these are things that we want to chat about and actually go through in detail in a consult. But yes, there's hope. If you speak French, there's hope. But if you don't have work experience, you're not going to be eligible for PR, right? If you don't have skilled work experience, you're not eligible for PR. And if you don't have education, it's going to be tough because a lot of points do come from education, right? Applied for a study permit on medical request. What are the chances? I appreciate you've asked the question many times. I don't know. No one knows. I've had clients come to me after their medical is approved and their study permit's rejected. It's possible. I have somewhere it's approved, obviously. By clients, I deal with refusals, so I see a lot of refusals. People come to me with refusals. When I deal with refusals, like people get medicals and still get refusals. So I have no idea what the chance of approval is. Listen, guys, tons of questions here. I got forms. I include my own, my children, and just myself, my dependents. Good question, Kia. I think there's a separate slot for your dependents where they're going to ask about this. So I think, read the question carefully, but I'm pretty sure your dependents have a separate slot. Read the question super carefully, but I think your dependents also have a separate international travel section. Yeah, maybe. I appreciate the question, Nancy, but we know that it's going to be about 480 for the next week, for the next few draws for CEC. So 475. Yeah, maybe in a few months we'll see. All right, got ADR visitor visa submitted 2 weeks before we get a decision. Let's say to apply for ADR details. I have no idea. Sorry, yeah, I wish I could help, but without actually sitting down and going through and look at the application numbers, looking at different details of my government, so what country, what is your government position? It could be for both. It could deal with eligibility, right? It could deal with background criminality, but keep in mind there's an inadmissibility in Canada, right? So it could be found inadmissible for certain reasons, certain jobs. It really depends. Again, we'd have to talk about where you worked, what you did, what was your position, what was your education, what were we actually doing, right? But ADRs are pretty serious. Is it an ADR? Is it a procedural fairness letter? Is it really, I want an extra document, or is it, we have concerns that you did XYZ while working for XYZ military in XYZ country during this period of time, right? Those might seem like an ADR, but it might actually be a procedural fairness letter, right? So it can be quite serious. You better to address it now than address it at a refusal stage. So definitely would take that really seriously and make sure to to answer the letter and obviously get the help of a lawyer if there's actually concerns about you working in government positions. Because to be honest, it could lead to inadmissibility. What could be common mistakes with applying for Express Entry 2023? Oof, good question. Good question. I mean, Express Entry generally hasn't really changed tons. Like, there is some new rules regarding COVID and whatnot in the ministerial instructions, but take a look here, guys. It's the number one thing you can do for completeness check. Like, number one thing. Like, if I was applying to Express Entry and I had no idea about immigration law, I would read this document 5 times. I'm not exaggerating. You want to come to Canada, you worked your whole life, you're paying over $1,000 just in IRCC fees, right? Like, read this like A to Z, Z to A, like understand everything in this webpage. Like, zero exaggeration. This is the most important thing that I would do if I was an applicant. How do you translate document, right? What needs to go in there? It tells you, like, source document translation, either stamped or referred to an affidavit. Every translation, boom, this is what it has to mean, right? We know what are the mandatory documents. What are we talking about for police certificates? What are we talking about for passport pages? This is pretty easy. But what are we talking about proof of work experience? Take a look at these requirements. This is the number one thing. Half the people I talked to for Express Entry who refused is because of this. Proof of work experience, to give reference letters like 2 lines. Cedric's a great associate. He's a fantastic lawyer. We love him. Please give him PR. That's insufficient, right? That is super insufficient for Express Entry. Great compliments. I love it. But where is the job title? Where are the duties? What's the job status? Where are the dates worked for the companies? Numbers of our work? Guys, I said we're starting to run out of time. I do need to go. So many good questions here. I really hope this was helpful. I do live Q&As right now just on Thursdays because I'm quite busy. I love the participation, and thank you so much for joining me. And again, it's just general information that I'm giving you. I'm trying to steer you in the right place. I'm trying to help you out with doing your own immigration application. And I'm an immigration lawyer. This is what I do day in and day out. I do way too much of it, but I love it. And this is our website, Holf Immigration Law. There's links in the description below. Take a look to see how we can help you. We have here, speak with a lawyer. And then here you can scroll down with my colleague Alicia. We have Chanel. And I telework abroad. So I'm abroad right now for the next 3 weeks, back to Canada. So I'm available in the morning. I'm available in the afternoon. But do book a consult if you'd like to speak with us and have us represent you for your immigration application. We'd love to help you get there. So listen, guys, I do apologize. This has to end. Yeah, I'm really sorry, Shida. I gotta go. I gotta call in a few minutes and I gotta prepare. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead. Bye now.